All right, let's talk about healthcare and biotech. Because right now, these sectors are at a really fascinating, kind of complex turning point. After a couple of tough years for investors, some seriously powerful forces are at play that could totally reshape the industry's future. Okay, let's dive right in.
So, here's the big question we're going to try and unravel today. We are living through this unbelievable age of medical breakthroughs, right? But for the last few years, healthcare stocks have been, well, struggling. It's a paradox that has left a lot of smart people scratching their heads. So what on earth is going on here?
To answer that, we first have to really understand the slump itself. Let's break down exactly why this period of incredible scientific progress just wasn't translating into market success. Until, maybe, now.
And this slide just lays out the disconnect perfectly. On one hand, you've got the promise, a legit boom in what science can do. It's amazing. But on the other hand, the reality for investors has been a sector trading at some of its lowest valuations in ever. I mean, how can both of those things be true at the same time?
So what caused this? Well, it was basically a perfect storm of headwinds. Yet rising interest rates, which made it way harder for those small, innovative biotech companies to get the cash they needed to operate. Then, in the US, you had new drug pricing laws, like the Inflation Reduction Act, that created a ton of uncertainty. Throw in a post-COVID spending hangover and growing tensions with China, and you can see why investors got spooked and decided to just sit on the sidelines.
But here's the thing, while the markets were freaking out, something absolutely incredible was happening in the labs. So let's shift gears and talk about the first major force that's changing this whole landscape, the sheer explosion in scientific innovation.
I just love this quote because that phrase, a Cambrian explosion, really captures the scale of what's going on. This isn't just a little bit of progress here and there. No, this is a historically significant burst of discovery, where new tech is unlocking entirely new ways to treat diseases. It's a game changer.
And at the very heart of this explosion are things called biologics. Now, unlike traditional pills that are made from chemicals, these are super complex medicines derived from living sources. And what's so revolutionary about them is their precision. Think of it like a smart bomb versus a cannonball. Biologics can be designed to target very specific cells or proteins, which opens the door to treating diseases we never thought we could touch.
And this isn't just theory. Check out some of the wild stuff that's happening right now. We're talking about mRNA cancer vaccines that literally train your own immune system to hunt down your specific tumor. Simple blood tests that can spot diseases like Alzheimer's super early. Gene therapies that are starting to actually cure genetic disorders that were once a life sentence. Even how we take medicine is changing, with new tech that lets you take complex drugs at home. And behind all of this, you've got AI, which is just turbocharging the whole research process.
So, that's the science side. It's booming, absolutely incredible. But now, let's talk about the second major force, which is all about money and, frankly, survival. The biggest pharmaceutical companies in the world are under enormous pressure, and it's kicking off a mad scramble for new products.
Just look at this number, $300 billion. Let that sink in for a second. That's the estimated annual revenue from major drugs that the world's biggest pharma companies are about to lose by 2030, all because their patents are running out.
This is what everyone in the industry calls the patent cliff. And it's called a cliff for a reason. Once a patent expires, cheap generic versions can hit the market, and the revenue from that blockbuster drug just falls off a cliff. For Big Pharma, replacing that $300 billion isn't just a nice-to-have. It is an existential threat to their survival.
So, how do you fix a $300 billion hole in your budget? You don't have time to invent everything you need from scratch. The fastest, most effective solution? You go shopping. You buy that innovation through mergers and acquisitions, or M&A.
And who are they shopping for? This chart tells you everything you need to know. The huge majority of the industry's new ideas, we're talking 2/3 of it, is now coming from smaller and mid-sized biotech companies. They are the engines of innovation. Big Pharma has the cash and the global reach, but the small guys have the groundbreaking new drugs. That makes them perfect takeover targets. Okay, so you have this innovation explosion crashing into a desperate need for M&A, but this is all happening in a world that's playing by a new set of rules. So let's look at how the shifting landscape of policy, geopolitics, and pricing is shaping all of these decisions.
And there's no better example of this new complexity than China. On one side, it has become this powerhouse of innovation. It's got massive patient populations for faster, cheaper clinical trials, and the government is pouring money into the sector. But on the other side, it's a huge source of uncertainty for global companies because of U.S. policy risks and geopolitical tensions. It's a classic double-edged sword, a massive opportunity and a massive risk that everyone has to figure out how to manage.
And look, don't just take my word for it. This quote from Morgan Stanley's Caitlin McGurk really highlights the opportunity side of that coin. These aren't small advantages she's talking about. They are major, structural factors that make China an absolutely critical player in the global ecosystem, whether through partnerships or as a source for new drugs.
The other new rule book that's being written is all about drug prices, especially in the U.S. That Inflation Reduction Act we mentioned earlier, that's a huge deal. For the first time, it's allowing the government to negotiate prices on some drugs. And there are other ideas floating around that could tie U.S. prices to the lower rates people pay in other countries. So what's the industry doing? They're having to get creative, looking at new ways to sell their products to adapt to this new world.
So, let's pull all of these different threads together. You've got those old headwinds starting to fade away. You've got an explosion of R&D. You've got this massive financial pressure cooker forcing big companies to make deals. And it's all happening within this new set of global rules. What you get is a future for the healthcare industry that's being completely reimagined.
So here's the big takeaway. This is an industry at a major inflection point. First, those headwinds we talked about are finally starting to clear up. Second, that Cambrian explosion in science, it's delivering real therapies that will change modern medicine. Third, that $300 billion patent cliff is creating a feeding frenzy for innovation. And last, after years of being in the doghouse, valuations are starting to look really attractive just as all this is happening.
This is the ultimate thesis. This is the whole ball game. For the first time in a very long time, the two most powerful forces in this entire industry, breathtaking scientific discovery and just plain old financial necessity, are pointing in the exact same direction. The need to solve that patent cliff is creating this massive, urgent demand for the incredible supply of innovation pouring out of biotech labs.
Which leaves us with one final, pretty profound question. When these two massive forces, science and money, align with this much power, what does it mean for all of us? This isn't just about stock prices. This is about the future of how we treat disease. You have to wonder, are we on the cusp of a true golden age for medicine?